It's official. Next year, South Africa will host the summit of the Group of 20, the G20. It's an international forum that brings together the world's leading economies to discuss global issues. And to have them here, I think, is akin to hosting the Olympics of diplomacy. Hot on the heels of Brazil, Indonesia, and India, we're not the only country in the global south to have done so, but we are certainly the first in Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa officially accepted the responsibility during the recent G20 Rio Leaders Summit in Brazil. Now, our summit will be held under the themes of sustainability, equality, and solidarity. And for any country that wants to be taken seriously in this world, the stakes could not be higher. Are we ready? Well, we're joined now by the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Minister Ronald Lamola. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the listeners.
So the G20 started largely as an economic summit following the Asian financial crisis. It, of course, has since morphed into something much more. So let's start by talking about who gets to be invited. It's not just the world leaders, but also heads of a number of organizations.
Yes, indeed, a number of other organizations which are playing a key role in global affairs, like some of the UN agencies, some of the key multilateral financial institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, the European Union, some financial players in many and key parts of the world, and including some countries that play a particular role on various sectors of society or of the economy, for example, infrastructure, digital economy. So it's a mixture of institutions, countries, civil society also playing a role, business sector, academics, judiciary. So it's a mixture of number of role players that lead and culminate towards the Leaders' Summit in terms of their recommendations.
Minister, we're talking, of course, at an uncertain time in the world. Increasingly, we're seeing a polarized world. I mean, for the first time this century, there are discussions now about even the possibility of a nuclear war. There are certainly hot wars currently underway, and even trade is about to become a theater of war. Will this forum then be just another talk shop when there's so little consensus on substantive issues amongst many nations?
It is a very impactful platform and forum. As you will already be aware, with the resolutions from Brazil, member states are already implementing. And its effect and impact is felt more by member states, multilateral institutions, the development finance institutions that I've already mentioned, civil society, business, already implementing the resolutions of this platform. And we expect the same as it comes to South Africa. So it is not just a tech shop, it's a very impactful platform. And we obviously will have to navigate these challenging, difficult geopolitical issues as we host. And Brazil did the same, India did the same. You cannot escape the fast-moving train and the geopolitical situation that is evolving Minister, at a very fast pace.
Let me push back against some of that. I mean, if we go back to the Brazilian summit, some might say it was underwhelming in some respects, not without some disappointments. For example, it recognized the need to scale up climate finance from billions to trillions without saying who was going to pay for that money.
Yeah, no, obviously the key aspect then becomes the role of the financial institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, the International Finance Corporation, and so forth. And as we come in ourselves as South Africa, you will also realize one of the key working groups or projects that we will undertake is that review of the last 20 years of the G20, what has been the impact, who has financed, and how far have we moved also to push and accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and how do we also take forward the Pact of the Future. So it is also going to be more of an implementation platform and also of assessing how far have we moved. And when that work begins to trickle in, we will be able to show to yourself and to the members of the public that this is the progress that the G20 has made in all these areas.
If we talk about the group of 20 as being the world's leading economies, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. That is, of course, the world's number one economy. And with US President-elect Donald Trump now already issuing a very clear warning to BRICS countries should they de-dollarize. How did you read that?
Indeed, we have, as you will remember, the president has said even yesterday that we look forward to engagement with the US in the G20 platform. The US will be part of what is called the Troika, those that are in now the leadership of the G20 on the basis of either going to take over or being the leaders that have exited, like Brazil. Now it's Brazil, South Africa, and the US. And the US will be taking over from us in 2025. So we look forward to engaging with them. And this is an important key platform of where the bridge, we close the bridge between the global north and the global south. It's a key fundamental platform for all these issues, for all the global south and the global north to find each other on a number of issues at a very key multilateral platform. But as the president has said, it still does not replace the UN as the supreme prime multilateral platform of the world.
I suppose it's a pertinent question to ask you because, of course, we've just sent Ambassador Designate Ibrahim Rasool to Washington. He's a seasoned diplomat. No doubt he understands the tightrope he has to walk there. But given the consternation we have seen from Congress about South Africa's relationship with the US, with Donald Trump now at the helm, you've got some hurdles to jump. I mean, we've got to keep all our friends on our side. Is our continued antagonism of the US not going to cost us in the long run? I mean, are we really still going to rename Santon Drive after Leila Khaled?
Thank you. Indeed, it's an evolving and dynamic relationship with the US, and we continue to assess, to engage with Congress, to engage with the State Department, and to engage with the White House. And we look forward to do the same with President-elect Donald Trump. And we will continue with our policy of non-alignment, of playing a role in global affairs as a developing country, which can't afford to align with either of the big superpowers. And we will continue to determine our own domestic policies. Obviously, there are other domestic issues that belongs to, as you have already asked the question, belongs to the city of Johannesburg, which will have to assess its own processes and programs in relation to the renaming.
Sure, but you must have a view, Minister.
I'm still going there. It has its own internal processes, which obviously ourselves as the supreme guider of our own domestic policies, and which is an extension also into our international relations. We will also engage with the city of Johannesburg to take some of these matters forward, including the fact that they will be hosting the G20, including the province of Gauteng, and also the submissions that they will have received. And I believe from there we'll be able to take the matter forward.
Of course, one of the things we have to do is hand over the presidency of the G20 to the US. There'll still be questions about whether Donald Trump will be in South Africa. I can't imagine him going to the embassy at number 1 Leila Khaled Drive.
Yeah, as I've said, that we will definitely take this matter up as we engage with the city of Johannesburg to understand where they come from, how far have they gone with their own internal processes of consultation, and also obviously in line with our own international relations duties and obligations, see how we take and assess this situation. Right. So it's going to be an issue of further engagement.
Finally, Minister, you're a jurist. I've been asking this question quite often of late, the question around international law. Does it ring hollow if it's only seen as applicable to some and not others?
Yes, for the law to be legitimate, it must have no eyes. It must apply equally to everyone and be applied consistently. That forms the backbone of international rule of law, but also in any domestic setting. For the law to be legitimate and be seen so in the eyes of the public and also be implementable, it must be applied equally.
All right. Appreciate your time, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.